In the sleepy coastal town of Harborview, Oregon, on a foggy October morning in 2023, the quiet was shattered by a woman's piercing screams echoing down Magnolia Lane. Clara Hensley stood barefoot in the middle of the street, her silk bathrobe flapping in the damp breeze, one hand clutching a phone, the other gripping a neighborhood association clipboard like a lifeline. Her prized Lexus SUV had just been towed away by a truck she didn't recognize, and she was unleashing her fury at the 911 dispatcher. "He stole my car," she shrieked, her voice cracking with desperation. But the deputy on the line already knew the real story. Across the street, leaning against a weathered fence post, stood Lucas Reed, a local fisherman with a baseball cap pulled low and a sly grin curling his lips. He sipped iced coffee, his work boots propped on a crate, and gave a subtle nod to the tow truck driver as the Lexus disappeared around the corner. 2 days earlier, Clara had towed his weathered Dodge Ram without warning, laughing in his face. Now Lucas owned the towing company she'd used. This was just the opening act. It all began, as these things often do, over something petty. Lucas's truck wasn't flashy, a 1998 Ram, salt-rusted but reliable, passed down from his father. He'd parked it outside his property line, as he often did, to unload crab traps for his fishing boat. He was gone for maybe 10 minutes. But 10 minutes was too long for Clara, the self-proclaimed queen of the Harborview Neighborhood Association. She patrolled the streets like a reality TV star, clipboard in hand, dressed in outfits that screamed control freak. When she spotted Lucas's truck parked just outside the association's designated zone, she saw an opportunity to flex her power. Lucas was hauling the last trap into his shed when he noticed his truck was gone. At first, he thought one of his deckhands had borrowed it. Then he saw the skid marks on the pavement and a fluorescent yellow tag tied to his gate. The towing slip misspelled his name, listed the wrong address, and bore a handwritten note. "Vehicle removed for community enhancement." Lucas knew exactly who was behind it: Clara, the only person in town with a monogrammed megaphone and a laminated association badge. Fuming, Lucas marched toward the association office, but Clara intercepted him halfway, strutting like she owned the pavement. She wore a blazer that looked 2 sizes too small and sunglasses straight out of a bad 80s flick. "You're welcome," she said, waving her clipboard like a scepter. That junk heap was an eyesore. Lucas, still in his work boots, caked with mud and seaweed, kept his cool and asked where his truck was. Clara smirked. Not my problem anymore. But it was his problem. Without the Ram, he couldn't haul gear to the docks or check his traps. His livelihood depended on that truck. The next morning, he hitched a ride to town and found the towing yard, Bayside Recovery, a junk-strewn lot that looked like a graveyard for forgotten cars. Inside a dingy trailer, a grizzled man named Carl, with a beard like steel wool, offered Lucas a stale donut and pulled up the towing order. "Yeah, the association lady called it in," Carl grunted, showing a form with Clara's signature, but no legal backing. Lucas noticed his property wasn't even under association jurisdiction as mailbox was, but his land wasn't. Carl shrugged. "I just owe what they tell me. That'll be $850. Lucas asked if that included a wax job. Carl didn't crack a smile. Back at his waterfront cottage, Lucas didn't lose his temper. He sat on his porch, the ocean's rhythm calming his nerves, and jotted down every detail: the tow company, the driver's name, Clara's note. Then he called an old friend, Nathan, from his days investing in fishing co-ops. Nathan owed him a big favor. 3 calls later, Lucas hatched a plan so bold it made him laugh out loud. The next day, he returned to Bayside Recovery, not for his truck but for a meeting with Carl. The man was desperate to sell the business, fed up with association drama and mounting debts. Lucas wrote a check, and by nightfall, Bayside Recovery was his, rebranded as Reed Towing LLC. That evening, Clara called the old number to gloat about another tow. Lucas picked up. 2 hours later, Clara's Lexus was parked illegally in front of the association clubhouse, smack in a fire lane. Lucas rolled up in his newly branded tow truck, paperwork in hand, with the same driver Clara had used against him. The tow was legal, filmed on multiple cameras, and executed flawlessly. Clara came running out. heels clacking, arms flailing like a broken wind turbine. "That's my car," she screamed. Lucas handed her the citation, climbed into the cab, and drove off as her shouts faded into the fog. As Clara raged at the sheriff, who confirmed the tow was legit, Lucas tipped his cap and said, "We'll send the invoice to your association address, ma'am." That's when Clara realized she hadn't just crossed a fisherman's tangled with a man who played the long game. But this was only the beginning. Lucas didn't stop at getting even. He wanted to dismantle Clara's reign of terror. He started with the tow company's records, call logs, faxes, and dispatch notes. The office manager, thrilled to help, printed a year's worth of association-related tows. She whispered that something had fell off for age tows without plate numbers, missing photos, and many without property owner signatures. Clara's name appeared repeatedly, sometimes under aliases, always tied to questionable orders. She turned the tow company into her personal weapon against anyone who dared defy her. Lucas dug deeper, visiting the county courthouse to pull property maps and towing laws. He even charmed a clerk at the zoning office with coffee and a grin, unearthing records that confirmed his land was outside association control. Clara's tow on his truck wasn't just shoddy, it was illegal. He wasn't the only victim. Lucas quietly visited neighbors like Henry, a retired mechanic whose van was towed for excessive wear, and Sarah, a nurse whose sister's car vanished from her driveway. Each shared stories of Clara's threats and fake rules. Most had paid the fines, too intimidated to fight back. But Lucas wasn't intimidated. He compiled a dossier thick enough to rival a novel, documenting every illicit tow, every forged form, every overreach. Meanwhile, Clara acted like nothing was wrong, spinning her SUV's tow as a clerical error. She chaired association meetings with her usual bravado, unaware that a quiet rebellion was brewing. The treasurer, Martin, began slipping Lucas financial reports, revealing thousands in towing fines that never made it to the books. Clara had insisted on handling vendor payments herself, and Lucas suspected she was skimming. He confirmed it when he audited Bayside's records, finding payments to a shell company tied to Clara's sister. Clara, oblivious, kept pushing. When she heard rumors of construction on Lucas's Propertia prank sign he'd posted about a marine research lab, she called an county inspector, claiming biohazard violations. The inspector, after a thorough check, found nothing and hinted Clara had a history of false complaints. Lucas went on the offensive. He rebranded Bayside's trucks as Coastal Compliance, parking them prominently by his gate. Clara slammed her brakes the second time she drove by. Lucas also tipped off county friends, who launched audits on the association's permits and violations, like Clara's padlocked emergency gate. At the next association meeting, Clara's motion to ban heavy vehicles aimed at Lucas failed. Martin publicly questioned her finances, and she stormed out, her control slipping. Lucas then requested a full audit of the tow company's association contracts, uncovering 60 illegal tows, many with missing fees. He rallied affected neighbors in his shed, sharing the evidence. They formed a coalition, with Martin leaking board emails and Sarah's sister, a paralegal, filing complaints. A cease and desist letter landed in Clara's mailbox, her shocked face caught on her own doorbell camera. Clara's final gambit was a restraining order against Lucas, alleging harassment. The judge dismissed it, warning her against abusing the system. Then came the open forum Lucas organized. Packed with residents, he presented the audit findings: illegal tows, missing funds, fake permits. The crowd erupted, sharing their own stories. Clara, arriving late, tried to speak but was cut off for breaking rules. She left to booze, her empire crumbling. Days later, her Lexus was repossessed, not towed, but taken by the bank for missed payments. Clara didn't scream this time. She vanished behind her curtains. The courtroom showdown was electric. Lucas's team presented a mountain of evidence: forged documents, embezzled funds, and 60 illegal tows. Neighbors testified about Clara's intimidation, including one woman towed while buckled in her car. The judge ruled against Clara, ordering her to repay funds, step down, and issue a public apology. The association faced reforms, and Lucas was awarded damages. Outside, neighbors embraced him, no longer afraid. Weeks later, the new president, Ellen, asked Lucas to be the property rights liaison. He agreed, demanding transparency. At a community barbecue on his property, residents celebrated their freedom. A handcrafted sign read, "Hooked by the fishermen, we haul more than gear." Lucas leaned it against his shed, grinning as his dog, Finn, barked in approval. Clara's house went up for sale, her legacy a warning. Lucas didn't want power, just peace. He got it, knowing Harborview would never let another Clara rise. But the story begs questions. Was Lucas a hero or a vigilante? Did he go too far, owning the tow company to trap Clara? Should the neighbors have fought sooner, or was fear too strong? Share your thoughts below, like, and subscribe for more stories that spark debate.